So I count 1,037 words. Let's see. And how many words do we need? 2,250 more or less. ¿Tienes algunas? Pues faltan como mitad. Yeah. ¿Y tienes dudas, preguntas? Porque tenemos que terminar con todo y todo para este día, este jueves. Sí, sí sabes cómo vas a estructurar todo. Sí, basado en lo que hemos practicado. Y,
sí, que falta de...
Sí, por ejemplo aquí. Ups. ¿Recuerdas? Tienes la hoja donde vienen las opciones. Ajá. No? Okay. All right, so remember we had option 1 where we had topic sentence, evidence, evidence, evidence. Okay. And we had option 2, again with topic sentence, evidence, evidence. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. No. This 2. We had option 2. Topic sentence. Evidence. Evidence. Okay. So we talked about these two main ways of organizing the results in discussion, right? Mm-hmm. Typically, we can think in terms of either one of these options, and you can mix the two. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for each paragraph, kind of which pattern here that you're following. And one thing that is consistent between these two is what comes first, evidence or evidence? Evidence. So whatever you decide to discuss, whether it's a separate paragraph or within the same paragraph, you have to make sure that you analyze what you've already talked about. All right. Okay. So let's look at this first paragraph. You have this sentence here, and this sentence goes from here to here. Right?
It's only one sentence.
Well, you tell me. How do we end a sentence? I mean, how do we know when one sentence begins and another sentence ends?
You have another idea?
Not necessarily, because I could have two ideas in one sentence.
Okay.
Think of punctuation.
Okay. With the period?
With the period, what else ends in a sentence?
According?
Nope. It could be a question mark,
Okay.
or it could be an exclamation mark, which we're not going to be using.
Okay.
Right. So it could be a period or a question. All right. So my first thing I want you to observe or notice here is your sentence structure. Okay, making sure that you can have one or two ideas in the same sentence, but we don't want to have a long sentence. We want separate sentences. So when I show you this example, these are separate sentences. Topic sentence, that's one sentence. Maybe evidence, that this is another sentence, this is another sentence. So you may have 4, 5, maybe 6 sentences, maybe up to 7 or 8 sentences in one paragraph. Same way with this. This is one sentence, this is a sentence, this is a sentence, and so on. Okay? Now, what else about this? All right, let's take a look. Let's assume that it's, I know it's a one sentence, but let's look within this sentence. And you have citations right away, okay? And then later on, I was wrong, you have a sentence here, sorry. You do have one sentence here. Okay, I missed this. So you have actually 2 sentences, but still, you want to have probably more than 2 sentences. Now, here, in the case of Charles, okay, what's the difference between, say, this sentence starting from around here, according to, what's the difference between this information and this information? What's the difference? Which one's evidence, or which one are results? Which one is a discussion?
According to me, the second
According
one.
to you. This one here highlighted, what do you think this is? Are these results or are they discussion?
Discussion.
Discussion? So what's the difference between evidence, I'm sorry, results? So we have results and discussion. So what's the difference between results and discussion?
Results are, well, what I said, right? Or
Okay.
what they answer in the questionnaire.
All right, what you observed,
What I did is
questionnaires, interviews, we can say direct quotes. It's all the data sources. Okay. So in this paragraph, what part would be the results? Results. Like this that I'm highlighting, is this a discussion or a result?
results.
Results, right? And what is this information? Results or discussion? The discussion. So in the discussion, what's another way of saying discussion? What do you do when you discuss?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so you want to interpret,
Okay.
critique, you want to cite. When I say cite, that means citations, like other experts. You want to argue. You want to give opinions and recommendations. Okay. Now results, another word of saying results is evidence. Another word of saying discussion is analyze. Or comment. Because up here I'm using E for evidence, A for analyze, to keep in line with the meal plan, because this is kind of still like the meal plan, but a little bit different. But when I say evidence, I mean results. When I say analyze, I mean discussion. Okay? So when we follow these patterns, what always must come first? Evidence. Huh? And whenever you discuss or you analyze, what are you analyzing? What you've already mentioned as evidence. So what I mean is you don't want to analyze something first, then present the evidence. You always want to present the evidence first, then analyze. And that's what maybe I think you're doing here. Because it looks like you're discussing here and then providing evidence. Now remember, whenever you provide evidence, this is just an example, but you're probably going to have at least 3 different types of evidence because we want to try to triangulate. So here you might have an interview, your observation, maybe questionnaire, all about this one topic. Then you don't talk about it and decide. Or if you decide to put it all in one paragraph, interview, maybe discuss it, observation, then discuss the 2, and so on. Or there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, observation, interview, and in fact you can include all 3 if you want. You can include your questionnaire, your observations, and your interviews, and then comment on it. The point here with this option is that both evidence and analysis within one paragraph. So you don't have to have it just like, this is just an example. So don't feel like you always have to have 1 sentence evidence, 1 sentence analyze, 1 sentence. No, you can mix it up. But always make sure that the evidence comes first, then you analyze. So that's what I want you to really concentrate on here whenever you present your evidence in your discussions. Let's look at this paragraph. So see, notice how you have a tendency to discuss. In fact, all of this, the purpose of this lesson, this seems to be mainly just an analyzed paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
But notice that so far, the only evidence you presented is this. Okay? So up to this point, you probably need a better balance between evidence and analysis. So let's take a look at this paragraph. Teachers ask questions to verify students' understanding of the topic. Okay, topic settings, good. In his classes, not only questions are asked. Charles also recruits. Okay, so these are things that you observed.
Mm-hmm.
Now maybe you can add some things. Maybe add. Do you have anything from the interview? Or questionnaire to add to this? You can add to this. In this paragraph, you discuss what you talked about here. And here you start. So here, according to Thomas, okay. All right, so it looks like you have a discussion. Just make sure that this discussion, it's related to this, the 2 or 3 data sources.
Okay.
Right? Y sigues así. 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 Y puede ser en el mismo párrafo y o 2 párrafos separados. Evidence in 1 paragraph, analyze in another. Or results in 1 paragraph, discussion in the second. Y sigues así. Back and forth, back and forth. Okay? So try to follow that pattern as you finish this section. And double check your indentations. Remember, they're the opposite of the paragraph. See, so I'll do the first one. And all you have to do is select all of them. Let's move this over. It's the opposite. Así. Es lo contrario lo que tiene.
Okay.
The first line, hacia la izquierda, y todo lo demás, medio figura.
Okay.
Y párrafo es lo inverso, es lo contrario.
Y por ejemplo, ahí está, se me movió el número de las páginas. Todas dicen 7 de 7, ¿no?
So, sí tienes, así, pero tú vas así muy, que, como cuando estás presentando tus ideas, también creo que hemos hablado de que tratan de tener ya like, the headings y los conceptos. Luego platicamos sobre la realidad de resources, ¿verdad? Esos son reviews, observations. So make sure that you're triangulating each of these and that this is following some sort of order. This doesn't necessarily mean one paragraph here. It can be maybe you need 2 or 3 paragraphs for this idea, 2 or 3. But that it's very clear for you what order you're going to talk about this first, then you're going to talk about this, then you're going to talk about this. This is your heading. Here's another heading. What? These are your topics, subtopics. And you triangulate it. So this, you need to have very clear in your mind before you write where you're going, where do you want to take this. And then you follow these patterns, pattern 1, option 1, option 2 type of pattern. Okay, do you have any questions about the introduction or the conclusion or the abstracts? Okay. The abstracts, let me just pull up an example, and I haven't looked at Lucy, I just know she had hers finished. But in an abstract, you want to, it's one paragraph between 150 to 250 words, no indentation. So this is the only paragraph that is all the way to the left, just as it appears here. Now in the abstract, you want to begin by talking about the problem that you want to investigate, and then go into the participants, the instruments that you used. You might want to mention that it's a qualitative research methods, and then talk about your findings. So think about the abstract as containing basically all the main elements of your entire thesis. So from the problem, from the method section, and the results and discussion section. Okay, and then you can also have keywords here. She has this. It's good also. Okay.
The introduction.
The introduction, yeah. And all of this information here is in the announcements. The introduction, you want to begin with a hook. And the hook can either be a question, a famous quote, or a statistic. Okay, so here's all this information can be found here in this announcement. You want to then talk about the background, the context of the problem. So talk about the problem, maybe include one citation from an expert about this problem that you are researching. So think about everything you're doing with your research. What problem are you trying to resolve? What are you addressing? And try to mention that a little bit in the introduction.
So, for example, in my case, there is not like a problem like it is. For example,
I mean, it's not. I mean, what could be a problem in your research that might be out there that's
Um,
was not teaching by not allowing students to practice their critical thinking skills? You went to class every day and you just did very basic, simple communication or activities where you never had to think critically, even though it's in another language. Maybe someone has mentioned, well, that's a problem. Or just even working straight from a book. To a degree, that's related to critical thinking. If you're just focusing on the book, exercises from the book, and not allowing students to think critically, so maybe it's something related to sticking too much to the book. The book has the syllabus. Maybe that's a problem. But yeah, there's several different ways you can word it, right? But it's something along those lines about drill and practice only, or the syllabus as the book, or lack of critical thinking in the ESL classroom.
I, I can start with something like traditional classrooms are always
Something about traditional classrooms, like the teacher talk time, maybe. I don't know if that's a good example, teacher talk time, but yeah, it's something related to traditional teaching practices, and something maybe related to critical thinking or the lack of critical thinking, something like that.
how many words?
200, approximately 250 words, and the last sentence of your introduction will be your thesis statement. This is basically the same as what we did in applied linguistics. In the conclusion, we're going to restate the thesis statement in the first sentence. Then think of the conclusion as being the past, present, and future. For the past, you're going to summarize your literature review. The present, you're going to summarize your findings. And in the future, you're going to make recommendations or state how someone else can extend your research, take your research to the next step. And that's thinking kind of in terms of the future. And follow that order. So restate your thesis statement and then discuss past, present, and future. And again, about 250 words. All right? Any questions?
No.
Do you have your codes in your appendix at the end of your documents?
I should include them.
Yes, at the very end, and mention it in the procedure section in the method. Right, so after you talk about how you collect the data, say the following codes were used to analyze the data. See Appendix F.
Okay.
And then you have your outline with all your codes. And what else? Are you going to have time to finish up this week?
I have to.
All right. Well, if you have any questions, let me know. If we need to have another discussion, I'll be around. I'm going to be here pretty much. I may go to the conference, but I'll be here most of the days here. So if you guys need to have another discussion before Thursday, before you finish, I'll be around. But I need the printed copy by 2 o'clock on Thursday, like before. All right. Any questions? Do you have an idea, a clear idea what you need to do?
Yes, I was kind of stuck in the result. I think I did some of the parts that are like more or less good, but the others, I don't know.
Just make sure that you follow that. First, you can distinguish clearly between what is a result and what is a discussion. That's the first step. And then from there, make sure that you follow these patterns. Okay. All right, Lucy, then we'll see you a little bit later then whenever you get finished. Bring it on by. Make sure that it's bound. You got to go out there. Or it can be like one of those plastic clamps too. But just make sure it's all together. And Yeah, make sure it's complete. It has all the appendix, cover sheet. Make sure it has a cover sheet, like in this template. Así, todo el documento.
Tiene que tener, ¿cómo se llama? Índice.
Well, the table of contents, I'll upload something probably for the final paper. You might work to it. But for, I mean, if you can add it this time, fine. If not, for the final, I would add it. But this is the cover letter. Make sure you have all this completed.
Okay.
Right? And the page numbers. You can do it.
I'm going to be pretty at least. I'm trying.
Very good. And your page numbers too. Make sure you have. In fact, your page numbers are fine. Now, some of you are doing page numbers like this, and some of you are doing. You can also have page numbers up here in the top right-hand corner.
And I can print it from there.
Yes. Let's go to print. And then it'll tell you like print from my computer. You should be able to print. Maybe. There we go. So it'll. Yeah, it saves it as a PDF, and then you can print the PDF. Now, if you want to download this later, at some point you want to probably download it as a Microsoft Word document. You just download it. Microsoft Word. Good? So, try to finish up for Thursday. Yeah. I think so. I think you can do it. Just put in the time and get it all finished. And then from there, we'll receive further feedback. And we'll have time to make further changes.
Okay.
All right. So we'll see you. Was later, I guess. When do you think you'll finish?